Hey, what's up there, YouTubers? It's me again, Brian, aka Gamer, excuse me, 55551, and I am back with a video review. And for this review, I'm going to be taking a look at the Nintendo eShop release of Bulletstorm Duke of Switch. Now, this is basically the Switch version, or almost close to the Switch version of 2017's Bulletstorm Full Clip Edition, which was basically a remaster of the original PS3 and Xbox 360 game of the game Bulletstorm. So, and if you're interested in any gameplay footage, I'll have a link down in the description down below. Bulletstorm is kind of an interesting IP to a certain degree, though. The game came out originally back in 2011, and while it didn't exactly do very well and all that stuff, it did garnish a following and all that stuff, and there are people who actually enjoyed it, though. At the same time, it garnished also controversy as well. Two different types of controversy. The one back in 2011 was supposedly an issue when the news network Fox News tried to take down Bulletstorm. There's an article on it on Rock Paper Shotgun. I'll have a link in the description. And while this is going to come off as political to some people, I stand behind that decision. Fox News, we're talking about, is a network that pretty much claims to be fair and balanced, but they are not. Not to mention, unpopular opinion to any people out there who may or may not like it, but I'm going to say anyway, it's nothing more than a propaganda machine for the Trump administration anyway. And then putting that one side, and then in 2017 when the game came out, though, although the game did get garnished good reviews and people liked it, there was another controversy it got itself dug into, and this one had to do with supposedly teaming up with some company to promote, I think, the PC version, some keys and all that stuff. And there were issues with that company as well, in which that supposedly they were doing some shady stuff, possibly putting out some information that they should not have done that. Gearbox CEO Randy Pitchford, you know, Mr. Magician, the guy who never claimed to lie about alien colonial marines, basically said he needed to see evidence, and when supposedly some YouTuber provided evidence, they completely changed course, which is nice, but it would have been nice if they actually had investigated it, that and all that stuff. Putting that aside, I played the 2017 game, though, and it was fun. I mean, I never played the original back on the PS3 and Xbox 360, but this was definitely a fun, in my view, a fun, enjoyable linear first-person shooter. So it was interesting when this game came out last year, when it was announced at, I think it was at PAX East last year, when one of the games, along with, you know, Borderlands 3, they announced that they were bringing Bulletstorm to the Nintendo Switch. Now, I recently picked up the game for the Switch edition. I had some money into my Nintendo eShop, and I wanted to take a look at this version myself. And after playing it for a bit, while it may not be the version for everybody compared to what it is on the PS4, Xbox One, and PC, though, Bulletstorm Duke of Switch Edition is still an enjoyable game, even if it's not on a powerful console like the PS4, Xbox One, or PC. So why don't we get started with the pros and cons, and we'll start off first with the pros. And the first one has to do with the gameplay. Now, the gameplay pretty much follows, it basically plays pretty much as a first-person shooter, but there are also some interesting elements to it, though. It is, number one, as I mentioned, it is a linear, story-driven, single-player first-person shooter, which that's the kind of games I normally like. And two, the gameplay is sort of interesting because while you can usually play it a traditional way, the game encourages you to find different ways to take out your enemy. So there may be cases where, like, there's a spike and you want to kick an enemy over there, or if there's like an electric field or something like that, or if you do a perfectly good headshot and everything like that. The game encourages you to do this because every time you do that, you'll get skill points, and you need these points, which acts like currency, and you need these points because you will use them to ranging from not only buying ammo, but also unlocking new skills or increasing your capability of how much ammo your weapon can carry and all that stuff. So the game really encourages you to come up with different ideas to take out the enemies, and I kind of like that approach. I kind of like how the game is like encouraging you to do that to a certain degree. So it's definitely, from the gameplay's perspective, it's definitely fun. Indeed, the gameplay is fun, though. The next thing I want to talk about is how does it run on the Nintendo Switch. And I will say, looking back at this version and looking at how it ran on when I got it on the PS4, the full clip edition, I would say that while it's certainly not going to look, like I said earlier, not look as pretty as the PS4, Xbox One, or PC version, the game runs very well. I didn't see really any I didn't see anything where like the frame rate took a hit or anything like that. I mean, granted, the frame rate is going to be at 30 frames per second compared to what the other versions are, but for the most part, it ran pretty well at 30 frames per second, and the visuals of the game look nice. Granted, they're not high-res like PS4, Xbox One, or PC, but they're not bad either. And granted, this wasn't a graphically demanding game compared to something like, say, Doom 2016 is. So as far as running on the Nintendo Switch, it runs very well indeed. And last but not least, as far as I want to go, is the story. And this is one of those over-the-top stories. And honestly, that's not a bad thing and all that stuff. I mean, the humor in the game is kind of like, it almost comes off as the kind of humor you sometimes might hear on like South Park and all that stuff. And while that type of humor may not appeal to everybody though, I wasn't bothered with it. I wasn't bothered with the amount of like dick jokes that were thrown into this game. So honestly, that didn't really bother me at all. And the story is just, it's over the top. It's basically these bunch of army guys, or a bunch of like these, the squad getting framed for a bunch of murders, and they are trying to get their revenge on this corrupted, like general and all that stuff. So it's over the top, but in a good way. I think the story is enjoyable. It's fun. It still has me hooked to it and so forth. And like I said, the language and all that stuff, while that may not be for everybody, I personally had really no issue with it, and some of it was pretty funny indeed. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we'll get to part 2, which are the cons. So take a little break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 2 of our video review of Bulletstorm Duke Switch edition for the Nintendo Switch. So now that I gave you the pros, why don't I give you the cons? And there are really 2 cons. I personally don't think they're as bad as some people will view them as, but some might see it differently though. The first one is basically, based on my time with the game so far, there is unfortunately no multiplayer mode. Now, like I said before, I'm more into single player experience and all that stuff. I know some people like to have a multiplayer mode and all that. So to me, it's not as big of a deal, but for others, I can understand and why. And I think it is a little disappointed that there is no multiplayer mode in this game. Supposedly the game has all of its DLCs, but I don't know why. I assume I remember hearing there were some multiplayer DLCs in the full clip edition. If that's true, I don't understand why they didn't bother to try to put those multiplayer mode not in the Switch version. It seems like an odd choice, but again, I'm not losing sleep over it. I'm not really big on multiplayer and all that stuff, but for those who are looking for a multiplayer mode in Bulletstorm's Duke Switch edition, you're probably going to be disappointed though. Another thing I do want to add, and someone asked this to me on Facebook once, is that whether this game has motion controls or anything like that. Unfortunately, there is no motion controls in this game or anything like that. So again, I don't think that's a big deal, but there are those who like the idea of using the motion controls for aiming and all that stuff, but unfortunately there is no motion controls in Bulletstorm Duke Switch edition. And last but not least is the Duke Nukem add-on. Now, when the original when the original Bulletstorm Full Clip Edition came out in 2017, one of the bonuses that they added is that they had not only the Duke Nukem in it, but the original voice actor that did the lines for, the main character and so forth. And while it's an interesting add-on, especially some of the lines he says, which is some of the scenes are going to be a little bit different in some of the lines he's going to say compared to the main character though. I just, even with the 2017 version of Full Clip Edition, I just feel that while Duke Nukem's enjoyable, I just feel like I just feel like Gearbox had to do something with the Duke Nukem IP. It just feels like, hey, we have this IP, Duke Nukem Forever bombed really bad. We have to do something with them, and it just feels like they just slapped them on the game just for like the hell of it. The original, I think, full clip edition, I think the download was like $5 and all. Here, it's just they just put it in right out of the way and all that stuff. So while in Duke Nukem still, to see him in Bulletstorm still enjoyable, I just feel like Gearbox just had to do something with the IP, and I just feel like it seemed somewhat unnecessary. Not bad, but I just think it's just seems like a waste and all. Overall, I would say Bulletstorm Duke of Switch Edition is definitely a fun first-person shooter on the Nintendo Switch. The game holds up very well on the Nintendo Switch, even running at 30 frames per second. It's not the 60, but I'm not losing sleep over it though, and the gameplay is still enjoyable, just like it was in the full clip edition and all that stuff. It is a little bit unfortunate that multiplayer mode is not in this game. Like I said, don't think it's a big deal, but others do. And I do feel like the Duke Nukem add-on just feels like Gearbox had to do something with that IP and all that stuff. But putting that aside, I still have fun with it. It's still an enjoyable game and all. And even though this game came out last year, if you're looking for a good first-person shooter or something to maybe keep you occupied until, like Borderlands comes out like in May and all that stuff, consider taking a look at Bulletstorm Duke of Switch Edition. One thing I will say about Bulletstorm with Duke Nukem is, while I do feel like it feels like Gearbox had to do something with the IP, I feel as though somewhere a good Duke Nukem game could exist. I do think it could exist. I personally think if they ever do another Duke Nukem game, I think they should consider getting the developers of Bulletstorm, People Can Fly, if that's the name correctly. Because if they were able to deliver a good first-person shooter with Bulletstorm, I think they could do a good Duke Nukem game. So I do think a good Duke Nukem game could exist. It's just trying to wipe away that bitterness that Duke Nukem Forever left in a lot of people's mouths. So, I mean, that game did not sit well with everybody. So, I hope one day we'll see Duke Nukem in his own game, in an actual good game for months. But until then, if you want a good Duke Nukem game right now, at the moment though, the old Duke Nukem games are it, or him in Bulletstorm Duke of Switch Edition. But putting that aside, I still think Bulletstorm is a fun first-person shooter. Okay, this concludes my video review of Bulletstorm Duke of Switch Edition for the Nintendo Switch. And again, these are my opinion. What are yours? What are your thoughts about Bulletstorm Duke of Switch Edition? Is this a game worth trying out for the Nintendo Switch? Do you enjoy the Switch version, or do you think the PS4, Xbox One, or PC version is better? Do you think the Duke Nukem add-on feels like Gearbox had to do something with the IP, or you weren't bothered with that at all? Are you bothered with the fact there's no multiplayer mode, or does that not bother you at all? Did you like what I said? Did you not like what I said? Do you have a difference of opinion for what I said? As always, sound off on the comment section. Let me know down below. And if you like this video, I hope you hit the like button. I would appreciate it. And I hope you do subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you do, make sure you hit the bell icon for notifications of any new videos I put up. Also, feel free to share this video if you want to, and feel free to donate to my channel if you like. You could do it through PayPal Me or Patreon. Links will be in the description down below. And I will see you again next time when I do another video. Hopefully that'll be soon. Until then, from Southern California, I wish you all a good day then. Bye!